I have another great resource to share with you, and to help me in doing that, I have Nancy D. Solomon, who is a transformational coach. She's actually a veteran coach. Just found out that she was one of the 50 first coaches in the world. And today, we're going to find out if you can actually really do what you love. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thanks for having me. And yes, 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 you can do what you love.
See,
if you know how.
A lot of people are going to say, there's no way whatsoever. I have bills to pay. I have things to do. I have kids to take care of. Kids are going to go to university. There's no way that I can do what I love and still be able to generate the type of revenues that I need or that I've been generating in my high-end executive job. What do you say to people who say things like that to you?
Well, that's more than 15 minutes, but let me just say this. If you get to choose what you do, why not choose something that you like to do in contrast to something that you don't like to do? And I think a lot of people just go for the money because they've been trained to do that. You know, go for the benefits, go for the 401k, go to something that you can stay in for the rest of your life. And what people aren't realizing is that the average person is going to change at least 7 times in their job. And so there's a lot of compelling research for why we should do what we love, and I'll share that with our listeners in a few minutes. But yes, 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 and I certainly am an example of one of those people who can do what she loves.
You absolutely are. But Nancy, in order for you to go from that really sort of high-end luxury career that you had in the corporate world to now being one of the top transformational coaches, you know, you had to get over the fear. You had to get over the fear. And not everybody is courageous enough or willing enough, or perhaps should I say not everybody has the tools in order to allow them to move from where they're at now to what they actually love. So how do you help people make that transition?
Let me share a little bit of research with you because I'm really big into research. I mean, my intuition really guides me, but I love to back that up with some evidence. First of all, 40% of all people make decisions in their lives to get away from something they don't want, to escape from pain. So lack, not enough money, not healthy, not enough friends, whatever that would be. And then 40% of all people make decisions to go to pleasure, to go to joy, to go to something they want. 20% of all people do both. So what that looks like is that there's a difference between going for a job because you're afraid you'll be on the street if you don't, going for a job because you're afraid what will people think if I'm not working, going for a job, doing what you're supposed to be, that's in quotes, because then people will approve of you and think you're really cool and like you a lot, and your parents won't hassle you. In contrast to finding out what your mission is, what your purpose is in life, and going toward that. And what I tell people is, you know, don't go home and quit your job tomorrow, but there are, let's say you had a job at company XYZ.
Okay.
And that job looked really enticing. It's the way you stand in your life and you approach the job. Are you running from your current company because you're afraid you won't be promoted? Because that you're afraid that you'll be passed over for a promotion? You're afraid that they're going to downsize and you're going to be riffed?
Okay.
Or you're going for that job because there's something compelling about it that your heart is calling you to it. So same job, same situation. The difference is where you're standing in your life. And I figured out a long time ago that I'm going to have a lot more fun doing the things I love than doing the things that I have to do. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people would love to be in that position. But the reality is, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people don't, you know, you talk about, you know, figuring out what it is that you want to do, that you were sort of born to do, but a lot of people have no idea. I mean, some people spend decades trying to figure out what their purpose in life is. And I think once you're able to find that purpose, then of course moving towards that with love is much easier. So in terms of allowing people to figure out what their purpose in life is, how do you do that when you're dealing with, you're the 9 to 5 and all of the other responsibilities that you have in your life?
Well, it's not an easy explanation, but let me tell you this. I have worked with literally thousands of people, and I've never met a person or worked with a person who we couldn't discover what their purpose is. So it's not, I think you just have to know how to cut short. If you're spending decades looking for your purpose,
yeah,
you're either working with the people or you're asking yourself the wrong question. Because your purpose is deep wired into you, whether you know it or not. But there's this cultural belief that you have to be miserable at work in order, think about it, we call it work. I'll tell my children, what are you doing right now? And the oldest is 13. And she'll say, I'm playing. And I'll say to her, well, I'm going to go to my office. And she'll go, oh, do you have to work? Oh, I know, Mom, you get to work. And I didn't always feel that way. But when we move from a place of allowing, giving ourselves permission to do the things we love. So let's say you're a chef and you love pancakes.
Okay.
Right? Are you going to get yourself a job in a steakhouse? Wouldn't it be a lot more fun to do what you love working in a pancake house?
Of
And so very often people think, well, I'm in the wrong job. And when I sit down and work with them, I realize, no, you're not in the wrong job. You just need to tweak your current job description so that at least 80% of the time you're doing what you love. I want to repeat that. 80% of the time, these are my own research, you should be doing the things you love. 20% of the time, you should be doing things, I call it filing. I do not enjoy filing. As a matter of fact, I hate filing. But filing needs to be done, and so I do it. But now that's going to average out. So some weeks it may be 90% you're doing what you love. Some weeks maybe it's 30%. But it should be an average of 80. Now ask me why, Krizia.
Why?
Ask me why it's so important.
Why is it so important?
Because when you're doing what you love 80% of the time, you are happy. And there is a ton of research right now out there. A ton of unequivocal research that says that happy people are happy because they're on purpose in their life. They're making a difference. They're using their gifts and talents. And when you're happy, you work more efficiently, more effectively, you collaborate better, you're sick less. So you take 10 times less sick pay or sick leave than you do if you're unhappy. You are at least twice as productive, right? You're much more efficient. You make decisions better, right? And people like being around you. Why? Because when somebody smiles, like I was looking, I'm smiling. So your brain kicks in to imitate me, like empathy, right? Like when someone says, I had a bad day, we go, oh, you did? And our face automatically empathizes with them, right?
Absolutely.
Well, when your face, right? So when your face does that, it sends a message to your brain and it kicks in the happiness factor. So what happens is, the research tells us that if you're not happy, you're miserable, let's say, you're depressed, and you smile, you will automatically start to generate the chemicals in your brain that will create happiness. Right? Which is why happy people like to hang out with other happy people, and if you're sad, hang out with a happy person because it is contagious. So getting back to do what you love, are you going to do what you love and be happier? Of course. And so then it becomes this positive feedback loop. Oh, I love what I do. It makes me happy. Now I'm happy. I get to do more of what I love, and so on and so forth. So when people say, I don't, how do you go do what you love? Well, it's a process of figuring that out, and it's identifying the beliefs in you that say that work has to be abominable, terrible, drama, frustrating, disappointing. You have to identify those beliefs and literally allow yourself to do what you love. That was a long-winded explanation.
But it was a good explanation. And in your experience, have you actually worked with business owners who had businesses where they felt frustrated, disappointed, trapped, but it was generating revenue, but they didn't necessarily feel like they were on purpose? And, it's like they don't want to really rock the boat because this is a sure thing, whereas their purpose and living out their purpose means a big change, and a big change often means big fear. Have you worked with people like that, and how have you helped them?
Well, several things. That's a great question. It depends upon how long the person was in business. I would like to think that most people I work with started out loving their business. And what happened is they realized the reality of running a business. And you and I have talked about this before. The reality is there are tough spots. And when you're on purpose, the commitment is deeper. It's rooted deeper in your systemic body, right? So it allows you to get through the tough times because you know that you're passionate about this, right? Now, there are some people that start a business just for the money. And the research also tells us that money does not buy happiness. That it's very interesting. That they have, in the studies, they've discovered that people who work for people who earn $10 million a year are not any less happy than the people who are earning $10 million a year. That there is a very low correlation between money and happiness, except in cases where maybe in a third world country or somebody's really deep into poverty, and this allows them to some basics like eating, right? But other than that, the correlation is very, very small. So going back to our business owner, hopefully they started out with a passion and then they got into the everyday stuff. So then they have to learn to delegate. So when I'm with that business owner, I'm saying, okay, are you still passionate about the core of your business, but you don't like taking out the trash on Friday nights or, running around getting supplies or whatever? Then you need to learn to delegate.
Okay.
The other thing that happens, a lot of people just want to build a business and then they want to sell it. So in those cases, prep you to sell the business and then go start something else. And you know what's interesting about that? It's called the progress principle. People who are on the journey to a goal are much happier than people once they've achieved the goal.
That's
and that is isn't that interesting? And it's a whole chemical reaction in the brain that basically survival of the fittest, certain hormones or chemicals are emitted that keep us going toward the goal. And once we get to the goal, our happiness dramatically decreases. And that explains a lot of entrepreneurs who, I just want to get my business to $1 million, and they get there like, is that all there is?
Yes.
So let's get it to $5 million, or let's start a new business.
I've heard that, and it's interesting because what you just said, it's really, when people say it's about the journey, you're just describing the journey. And I have heard of entrepreneurs who got to that point, and they got there, and is that all there is? Same with some people who are in the corporate world who wanted to get to that position where they were earning, let's say, $300,000 a year, that high-end executive level. They get to the high-end executive level, and they're not as happy and satisfied as thought they actually would be. So that's really interesting. Now,
that's certainly good for me. So you keep going for the next promotion or the next house or the next piece of jewelry, and probably what you need to do is re-examine what you're doing all over the place, Absolutely. Not just in your job.
And there's something that you just said that was very important. You said that when you are on purpose, you're willing to keep moving forward, even though, there are bumps in the road. Whereas obviously when you're doing something where you're not passionate or you really, I feel that being on purpose is more than passion. Because you could be passionate about singing, but it wasn't perhaps the thing you were supposed to do.
The passion comes from being on purpose. So people say, Nancy, can you help me be more passionate? Absolutely not. I can help you get on purpose, which will make you happier. And the byproduct of the happiness is the passion. Right? But you can't put passion where there is none.
Okay.
That's not how it works. Yeah.
And I feel that when you get on purpose, then you are actually able to go through, the rough spots, because the purpose, as you said, it's ingrained, it's inside you, and that's really what, the wind beneath your wings, that's really what it's all about, or else you wouldn't get up in the morning.
Well, I just recently gave a keynote, and I said that owning your own business is like giving birth to a child. 80% of the time you wonder, what was I thinking? And 20% of the time you know what you were thinking.
That is
but when you're so, isn't that true? And so when you're so committed, when you're so passionate, in your case, in supporting women entrepreneurs to the inevitable success if they do things according to the principles that work, In my case, it's helping people to discover what their life purpose is and then to create a strategy to live that purpose. So it's not just airy-fairy. I can't not do what I do. You can't not do what you do. We're compelled. It's a disease. It's an addiction in a lot of ways.
I know, it's amazing. I mean, some days I wake up and I'm like, oh man, how many interviews do I have? And I thought, oh, I'm so tired. I don't know if I could do it. And then I'll get on, and then it's like, boom.
Because it energizes you.
It energizes me. Every time.
I'm on this. I'm sorry.
You know, go right ahead. It's amazing. And that's when, and even sometimes I'm doing this stuff and people will comment, and that's when I know, yes, I am on purpose. And it's a feeling I've never had. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes people say, well, when, I don't know, when do I know I'm on purpose? If you've never been on purpose, when you are on purpose, you know you're on purpose. It's
Absolutely.
like fire beneath your bum.
It's flow. It's flow. That's when you're doing your purpose, is when the time flies by and you go, wait a minute, it's 5 o'clock. I just got here. Yes. Because you're in that hum. That vibe. You're exactly in the groove where you belong.
I totally agree.
And
well, one of the things that you do, Nancy, because we're just chatting. Ooh, I think I can hear myself on your end with your speakers. But one of the things that you do, because obviously we're just chatting about purpose, and figuring out what you love in life would take a lot longer than just a conversation that we're having. But you're actually going to be holding an event that allows people to sit down for a few days and really focus and think about one thing and one thing only. And that's coming out of this event with sort of a strategy. You talked about strategizing things and whatnot. So it'd be great to talk about that a little bit, let people know. And if people want to join you I believe it's going to be in Seattle. Is that correct?
It is Seattle on October 22nd and 23rd.
Perfect.
And we're holding it at the Museum of Flight because I figure that's a great place to take off from. And it's basically a 2-day break from your life. It's 2 days in which you get to be with other people who want to support you to reach whatever your goals are. So what we're looking for in those 2 days is A, remove yourself from your, quote, regular life, from all the outside influence, and to teach you how to go inside. And the question we will answer in those 2 days is, what did you come here to do? And how can you get it done? And when I mean what did you come here to do, is what were you born for? What did the universe make you for? What is your mission, your job, in the biggest sense of the word? And if you don't know what that is, no worries. I have a lot of experience working with thousands of people, helping them just like you. You know, a lot of people go, I don't like where I am, but I don't know where I want to go. Or I would do anything if I could figure that out. And so we work on, for the person who knows what they want to do and can't figure out how to get there, no worries. You don't need to know how. You just need the desire to get where you want to go. For the person who has no idea, you put yourself in my hands, and by Sunday evening, you will know. You will have an excellent idea of what you could do in your life that you would love and be happy at, and therefore make more money at. Because you not only have a life purpose, you have a money purpose as well, and your money purpose is the job, the way you can earn money, doing the things that you do best. And we have strategies, we have worksheets, we have small group work, we have, my presentation, and we have time for you to spend by yourself amongst the airplanes. And I'm really excited about it because the people who leave after one of these conferences says to me inevitably, Nancy, it changed my life.
Wow.
I got more out of it than I could ever have expected, and it was totally different than I thought it would be. So one of my clients recently said, it was everything I hoped for, and it was more than I ever thought it would be.
That's very powerful.
And so it is powerful. And you know what, Krizia, I know we teach the things we need to learn. And so I found myself, for those who don't know, in the fashion industry for 16 years, 17 years, vice president of sales, $25 million territory, and I was absolutely miserable. And I was, quote, culturally successful at it, which means I made a lot of money. but
Exactly.
I was absolutely miserable. And so I figured out how to make that transformational change, how to become more of who I am and put down others' expectations of me and pick up my own life. And so I love showing other people how to either maximize their job in, how to start a new business, how to get the self-confidence and the self-trust to figure out what they want. And that's the hurdle. It's figuring out what you want is the hard part. The how, once you got
Absolutely.
the how, that's much easier, don't you think?
Absolutely, and then you get into the flow. And I love the fact that people are taking a break for them from their lives, the energy of the group, and of course your amazing expertise and the fact that of course you know exactly how to go from where you don't want to be to actually to finding your purpose and living out your purpose. So what I'll do is I'll have some more information and details about this event in the show notes. And of course, if you're looking for your purpose and you're trying to find the right person to help you get there, Nancy D. Solomon. Thank
And
you so
I'd
much,
love to
Nancy.
help you.
Thank you.
Thank you.